Hi, and welcome to Getting Biblical, the show where I drink too much and talk about my favorite Bible stories. I am Matt Smith, your host, and thank you for joining us today. So for today's show, I have a topic that I've been kind of dying to talk about for a while now. We've officially wrapped up the book of Genesis, and now we're moving into the book of Exodus, which launches the next kind of arc of the Bible and the stories that we're going to do and everything. So a lot of cool content, a lot of stuff to go over, and can't wait to get into it. Before we get into all of that, let's talk about what I'm drinking. So my eyes caught this bottle a few months back at my local Total Wine, and I just knew I needed to have it for today's episode. And it's a vodka. It's made in Finland, and the brand, if you follow the show's Instagram account, Getting Biblical on Instagram, you'll already know what I'm talking about. The vodka is literally just called Moses. It's a really stunning bottle with a scene of Moses parting the waters on the back of the bottle, but on the front of the bottle, amid the frosted glass and everything, there's a section. It's a clear section of glass, so you can see through the bottle. And of course, the alcohol is clear as well, crystal clear, and you can see through this little window through the bottle to the back of the bottle, the scene on the back with Moses, and it looks so cool. There's like gold leaf on it and everything, some trees and whatever. Like, just actually a stunning bottle, and just really cool having in your collection and everything. But what makes the vodka really interesting is what what intrigued the shit out of me when I pulled the bottle down from the shelf. It's made from sugarcane, which typically isn't a thing that vodka is made from. In my head, sugarcane equals rum, and that's true. That's what rum is made from. So my brain couldn't quite wrap my head around, how they could call it a vodka and not have it just be a rum, right? If you're using the same thing and distilling it and whatever, but apparently the process of it all makes the end result technically a vodka and not a rum, which I don't understand. I need to learn more about it. So maybe I'll do an update later once I figure out all the science behind it all. But the second part that really intrigues me is the fact that this Moses vodka is officially kosher. Now, vodka isn't a thing that I normally worry about whether it's kosher or not. It's just not, I mean, there's no bacon in it. There's no whatever. There's no shrimp or, it's just the parts that you put it together are all kosher parts. So the end result kind of should be kosher anyway. But the fact that they're taking it to another level and actually have a rabbi on staff overseeing everything and making sure it's all kosher and it's all done to a certain, specification, to a certain degree, and the blessings over it, all that kind of stuff is just pretty neat. It's I don't know of any other bottles out there that are available here in the States that are certified kosher. So it's kind of a neat, like a novelty. It's a thing. So those two things were very intriguing to me. And so after drinking like a third of the bottle or so, it's good. It's crisp. I feel like I can taste the sugar base, so it comes off a little sweeter than some other vodkas, but not overpowering. I mean, it's not a sweet drink or anything like that. And I actually busted out some silver rum that I had lying around as well to do a taste comparison, and it's definitely different. It's definitely distinct between the two, between this vodka and the rum. It's cool. It's very interesting, very smooth. There's not, it's a premium vodka, premium spirit. It doesn't hit you in the face as hard with some of the something that you get from like a plastic bottle or whatever. Like, it's very easy to drink. I'm not even a huge fan of vodka. Like whiskey you can just pour it out and I can drink it from the bottle if need be, which I don't try to make a habit. But whiskey is obviously where I go to, my thing that I love. The vodka, I don't quite have that relationship with it, but it's good. I can taste it. It's good. It's a weird. It almost feels like alcoholic water, which I don't know if that's a compliment or not. Like it's crisp and it's clean. You can tell there's alcohol in it, and it changes the flavor a little bit. But it's almost just pure, like, no taste, which feels like a weird thing to say. Like, why am I spending extra money for something that doesn't have a taste? So, which is again why I might have an issue with vodka. But anyway, So I tried it with. I had it straight up though. I had the vodka straight. I had it a little bit of ice just to see. I had a little bit of cranberry juice to do, a little Cape Cod, that type of thing. Later, I'm going to try some other stuff. I really want to see. I didn't have any vermouth with me right now, so or olive juice actually, either of those things. I really want to try it in a martini. I think it would make a fantastic martini, real crisp, a little bit chilled, shaken, all that kind of stuff. I think it would be really great for that. So I wasn't prepared to go down that road just today. So you might see this bottle come back in the future. We do a part 2 of this bottle, but that's for later. Anyways, so that's what I'm drinking. Moses vodka to tie in with today's episode. It's really great. Maybe kind of a novelty, but the bottle is absolutely gorgeous, absolutely stunning, so cool. So definitely keeping it around even once the liquid is gone out of it. But super cool. You should check it out. Great stuff. And that is what I am drinking today. So let's move on to the Bible stuff. So we left off with Joseph bringing all of his brothers down to Egypt and taking care of them and making sure they didn't die from the famine and all that kind of stuff. And things are going, pretty okay for everybody. They got along with the Pharaoh. Everything was fine. They prospered and had a bunch of kids and whatever. And just, generations went by. And unfortunately, wouldn't you know it, all good things must come to an end, right? Ain't that the truth? So we fast forward several generations after Joseph and his brothers, and everyone passes away, and Egypt has an uprising, a hostile takeover of the pharaohship, if that's a word. And a new pharaoh takes over, one that did not have a history with Joseph or his family or the Israelites, right? A stranger to all them. So this new pharaoh that was now in power, he looks around, looks out over Egypt, and he's like, what's the deal with all these shepherd people living around us? They aren't Egyptian. Why are they here? And he's like, actually, there might be more of them than there are of us. They're about to take over. We got to stop this. Clearly, it's like, how if you're in a relationship and the one partner accuses you of cheating when you're innocent or whatever, and maybe that's because they've been cheating or whatever, which has never happened to me. I don't know why I brought that up as a reason, but when someone accuses you of something and they're the one that is actually feeling guilty for it, I wonder if that's a thing that's happening. So this pharaoh just took over Egypt, right? This uprising. And now he's worried that other people are going to do the same thing. Even though the Israelites had no desire, no business, they were minding their own lives, whatever, doing their own stuff. But he's getting all paranoid now, all worried that they're going to take over everything. And so he's like, we gotta stop this, right? We gotta cut it off. No more of this. These shepherd people over here. So he comes up with an idea, and he turns them all into slaves first, right? He puts comes down and, I don't know if he chained him up or whatever, just kind of just tiptoed, hey, you work for me now. This is the new rules. No more holidays, no more, vacation time, and no more medical. You just have to work for us for free or what. I don't know. I don't know exactly how it all worked, but he turns them into slaves, and then he starts making them build things, I guess, for the Egyptians, the pyramids or whatever you want to call it, and hard construction labor, that type of stuff. So even though the slavery and they took away their 401k benefits and all that, and it was rough, the Israelites were still prospering, and they were still having kids and doing things and stuff, right? So their numbers kept growing, and they kept again, they were being prosperous. So the Pharaoh gets even more upset because now he realizes that he's treating them like shit. He made them all slaves, and now there's even more of them. They're having babies, and they're growing in numbers. So now they might even revolt even more than they were going to before, because now they have a reason to, right? They have a reason to fight back. Before, when he was just letting them be, it didn't really matter. They weren't trying to rock the boat. They were fine where they were at. Now they've made them all slaves. Now they have a reason to do their own uprising. So he gets a second idea. He gets another idea. He calls up all the midwives in the land, the women in charge of helping the birth of the babies, right? And he says, listen, there's too many of these Hebrew people. We gotta thin them out. Here's an easy solution, right? I think this is the most efficient way to thin them out. When you're helping the mothers give birth, if the baby comes out and it's a female, then no worries, let it be. Women are weak, whatever. I'm the Pharaoh, it doesn't matter. I don't care about the women. But if it's born a boy, though, just go ahead and just kill it. Just no big deal. Just kill the boys. Like when the mother can't see the baby because you got that sheet or whatever draped over her knees, right? The image of childbirth that we all have in our heads, and it's just you down there, the midwife and the baby all alone in the vagina blanket fort or whatever you want to call that, like when you're down there like pulling the baby out and then you notice that it's a boy, just quickly kill it and say that it's a stillborn or whatever, like just make up a lie or something. No big deal. Just can you guys do that for me? That's the plan. I really need you guys to help me out with this so we don't get overrun or overpowered. We need to stay in control here. And so the midwives, of course, like to his face, are like, oh, sure thing, you betcha. Like we'll get right to killing these babies. Like next time I'm in the blanket fort between her legs, like we got you, dog. Pharaoh. We just love killing, especially babies. We love killing babies. It's not like I mean, they couldn't bring themselves to actually do it. It said they feared God, and also they just had no desire to be killing babies. Like, they opted to not do the thing. Like, these are career midwives, right? This is what they do for a living. Like, they went to school. I don't know, like what's the doulas, right? That's a thing? Like, that's their chosen profession. Maybe some of them even are like full registered nurses, right? They have like the LPN license or whatever type of thing, and they don't want to make a career out of killing babies, so they're not into it. So they say they are. They say, yeah, you got it. We're gonna do this. We're gonna kill all the boys, but then they did not do it. They did not do it at all, and the Pharaoh comes in and he gets all mad and he's like, what? Like, why are there so many like infant baby boys running around? Like, I told you to kill them in the blanket fort or whatever, in the pregnancy blanket fort. And he's like, what the hell's happening? And the midwives, I'm not making this up, this is straight up in the Bible. The midwives are like, Pharaoh, you don't understand. The Hebrew women aren't like the Egyptian women. They are hardy and they're vigorous. And by the time we get the phone call to show up to help with the birth, they just pop the baby out. We don't even have time to hang out in the blanket fort under their legs. Like, they don't need us at all. They pop out the baby. He's cleaned up. The cord's cut. Like, they just do everything ourselves. We actually don't do anything. We are not even helpful with the birthing process whatsoever, which is all a lie. It was not true, but that's what they told him. And the Pharaoh didn't know enough about like what happens, I guess, in the birthing room or whatever. Like, it sounded legit to him. He's like, okay, I don't know if I believe you, but I don't know enough to not believe you. So he's like, let me figure out another plan. So he ramps it up and like puts it into overdrive. He skips the midwives altogether and just starts giving official orders to all of his guards, all of his whatever, all of his men, that the slave masters, whatever. And he tells them, he goes, whenever you find a Hebrew male child under, I don't even know if they gave him an age limit, just like a male child of the Hebrew people, just scoop them up and throw them into the Nile River. Just throw them in the river. They'll either drown in the river because they're babies, or they'll get eaten by the crocodiles that live in the Nile or whatever it is, right? But just scoop them up, just throw them in, don't give a fuck. Like, the stupid midwives are just too unreliable. It's such a like this is my plan. Like, this is what we're gonna do. Just if you see him, just like grab him by the arm and just think of, like, I don't know, like when Thanos like threw Gamora off the cliff or whatever. Just like, just like grab the kid, just throw in the Nile, and it's either gonna drown or get eaten by crocodiles. Like, that's the plan. This is how we're gonna deal with our population issue over here. It's really horrible. So during all this nastiness, all this whole like babies being thrown in the river type thing, there was a baby born, a baby boy, and his mother, not wanting him to get thrown to the crocodiles or whatever, she hides him for 3 months, right? Doesn't let him go outside and play, or 3 months actually. Never mind. What am I even saying? Like, they don't. By 3 months, they don't do anything. 3 months, they just sit around and nurse and poop, like whatever. They don't do anything. But for the first 3 months, she hides him. She doesn't take him out. She doesn't show him off to his girlfriends or anything like that. But she hides him for 3 months. It's just easy to do for those first 3 months. The infants sleep a lot. Maybe she dresses him up like a girl also. I don't know. Maybe. And I don't know. But after about 3 months, she realizes she can't keep the charade up any longer. So she's got to do something, and if she just like lets it be known that she's got a baby boy, he's gonna get thrown into the river. So she finds a basket that will float on the water, finds a little basket, little boat for the baby, and puts the baby in the basket, puts him in a little cloth or whatever, and sets him down the Nile River. And like, okay, to be honest, I'm not sure what she was thinking was going to happen. I don't know what she thought was going to happen here. Like, the odds are that if you put an infant in a basket and send it down the Nile River, like, nothing good is going to come from that. Like, that's not a great scenario. So maybe in her mind, I don't even know. Maybe it was like kind of like a funeral for the baby, but like a graceful way to like put him in a basket and send him down. Like, maybe the basket was more of a casket than anything else. But she couldn't have him like thrown harshly into the river. She wanted to, say her piece and whatever, and like let him go down, whatever. I don't know what she was doing, but she puts him in the basket, sends him down the river to whatever destiny has in store for him. The odds seem way against anything good happening here, but whatever. So this baby has an older sister, right? Because the baby daughters weren't being thrown in the river or anything. So he has an older sister who wasn't too, I guess, keen on the whole idea, maybe. She watches the basket from a distance. She's very curious what's going to end up with, what's going to be the end result of her little brother. So she watches the little basket float down the river. And wouldn't you know it, as luck would have it, very lucky, the pharaohs, that Dick, whatever, that guy, but the pharaoh's own daughter, a princess of the pharaoh, she's bathing in this particular spot of the Nile River. She's down there, she's taking her bath, whatever, and I guess at a certain spot they didn't have like crocodiles or whatever. It was a safe spot to bathe in. So she's bathing, and she just sees this basket floating along, and the basket gets caught up in the reeds, the nearby plants in the water. And she takes the basket and like opens it up, wondering what's in it. And what there's a little baby boy in here. And she's like, "Oh, like he's kind of cute. I think I'll keep him." Which is a totally logical thing to do if you find a baby in a basket in the water. But I don't have a baby. I've been wanting a baby. Here is one for me right now. So she scoops him up, and she's like, "I'm gonna keep him." And at this point, that baby's older sister, the older biological sister, comes running up, and she's like, "Oh, wow, miss, that's so wild that you just found that random baby here." like playing it up. She's like, "How are you going to feed him? He's still an infant. He needs to be nursed." Like, right? Isn't that how babies operate? And, Pharaoh, Princess Pharaoh, whatever, is like, she's like, "Oh, that's right. Like, I'm not lactating. I can't nurse it myself." And so the older sister is like, "You know what? It just so happens I know a lady that just recently had a baby, and if you wanted, like, she could like nurse the baby and babysit him and stuff like that, and could feed him, and like would you be interested in something like that? Maybe I could go talk to her for you." And the Pharaoh princess is like, "That sounds lovely. Give me the person's contact information, or are they on Facebook? Can I find them? Like, how? Like, give me their information. We need to connect." And so I feel like you see where this is going. It's so cool. The sister goes and gets her mom and whatever. It's the baby's own actual mother. And the mother gets put in charge of nursing and babysitting and watching this mysterious baby from the water, which was her own son. It's her own child. So she got to help raise or, make sure that the baby was taken care of, even though she had to pretend like she was just hired help or whatever. But, she knew. So it's very cool. Very neat. Very, very neat how it all played out. Good on you, Moses' older sister, who never gets talked about again, unfortunately, but I don't think she gets a name, but really, really cool of you that you were clever enough to set all this up. So, and so of course the baby was named Moses, right? Spoiler alert. You know the deal, which apparently means to pull up out of the water or something like that, which is what the princess did. So that's where he gets his name, Moses. It means to pull up out of the water, which is what she did. So Moses is growing up, and he's got this duality in him, right? Almost a dichotomy of, he knew he was Hebrew, but his birth mother helped nurse him and was probably part of his life at an early age. So he clearly isn't Egyptian. He knows he's not Egyptian, but he lived in the Pharaoh's palace also. Like, he was the Pharaoh's grandson, adopted. Yeah, that's right. Like, I mean, it's almost like if you went to a got a dog or whatever, like, but that's adoption also. So adoption is a fine word. So it's adopted grandson. But so he was raised by the princess in the Pharaoh's whatever castle or whatever they had back then. I don't know. So he's raised over there, but he also knows that he's Hebrew, so he has this deep connection over there. So he's in both of these different parts of these cultures, these lifestyles. And one day he's walking around. He really feels for his biological people, for the Hebrew people. He sees that they're slaves, and he's kind of above it all, I guess, a little bit. But he sees that it's happening, and he's not happy about it. Like, he definitely could have gotten raised up to be just a total dick and like not caring about other people and just like, well, I got mine, so it doesn't matter. Like, I'm rich and well fed and everything's okay. But he still had this heart for the Hebrew people that were being abused and everything as slaves. And so one day he's walking around, and just out of the middle of nowhere, he sees an Egyptian beating the shit out of one of the slaves, one of the Hebrew people. And Moses just loses it. He just can't take it anymore. And he looks around, he looks to his left, he looks to his right, sees that nobody else is nearby. So he springs into action, and he kills the Egyptian. I don't know how exactly, but he kills the Egyptian and then buries him in the sand and just hopes that nobody notices. Like whatever, no big deal. And it doesn't say if the Israelite that he saved was like thankful or anything like that, but he just like whatever. He kills the Egyptian, buries him in the sand, and then just goes about his day. Moses does. So then the next day he's walking around again. I don't know. Like maybe. This put him in a bad light, I think. But at this point, I just imagine, those people, those real life superheroes that we keep hearing about in like major cities. And there's a couple in like Texas and whatever. And there's one in Chicago. I don't even know. Like all around, they're like taking it. They're like wearing like hockey gear and stuff or whatever, and they're like taking it upon themselves to walk around the cities at night and try to, I don't know, like they have no powers, whatever, and I kind of appreciate what they're doing, I guess, but you kind of think there's a little bit something wrong with them, right? We all know who I'm talking about, those types of guys. No offense to you out there. Keep your city safe. I can't wrap my head around it. Okay. So that's kind of what it feels like Moses is doing. Like he's just walking around, like doing his daily like superheroing or whatever. And so the day before he sees the Egyptian beating the Hebrew, and he springs into action, and he's the Punisher, and he kills the guy, and like, okay, like now you're safe or whatever. Go back to your family. And the next day he's walking around again, but this time he sees two Hebrew people fighting, two Israelites fighting. And he goes up and he's like, what's your deal? Like, why are you fighting? Like, who's at fault here? He asks them, who's at fault? And they're like, why are you asking? It's none of your business, one. And who do you think you are? You're not the boss of us. Like, who's at fault here? What, are you gonna kill one of us just like you did the Egyptian? And Moses is like, oh shit. And he starts freaking out because he knows that he's about to get in trouble, because what he thought was a secret when he killed that guy and buried him in the sand is now apparently public knowledge, and he knows that it's just a matter of time before the Pharaoh finds out, and he is not going to be happy about this. So even though it's like his adopted grandfather or whatever, it's like he's like, this won't end well for me. So Moses dips. Moses runs away. He leaves Egypt. He bounces, and he goes to a place called Midian where he can lay low. I'm going to stop actually right there for the time being, and we'll get into the rest of it later. We'll find out what happens with Moses, as if you don't already know. And by the rest, I mean like a lot. So to give you an idea of the story of Moses, the book of Genesis that we just finished, that book alone covers the creation of the world, Noah's Ark, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all of that. All of that is in Genesis that we've covered. Moses is pretty central in this book of Exodus, the next book Leviticus, and the next book Numbers, and the next book Deuteronomy. And Deuteronomy is essentially just a big speech that Moses makes before he dies. And then his death is even mentioned in the beginning of the next book, Joshua. So creation of the world, Noah's Ark, etc., generations, all of that in Genesis. Moses gets 4 whole books and a little bit of another one. Like Moses is a big old deal. A lot of stuff to go over. So God did a lot with Moses. A lot of laying down rules and laws and stuff or whatever, but some neat adventures too. So we've got so much stories, so much Moses to go over. You might get sick of him by the time that we're done. There's a lot going on, so there's no reason to rush into it. We're gonna tiptoe into the water, as it were, of Moses, and gonna finish it right here. That's just his origin story, and then we can go from there in the next show. But for now, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about something else that I am extremely passionate about. I want to talk about Superman. So, as you may or may not know, Superman was created by these two guys, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. And Siegel was the writer, Shuster was the artist, and they were both Jewish. And the analogies between the story of Superman and the origin story of Superman and Moses are pretty neat, right? So, and that's what I want to talk about. So, we all know the general story of Superman, right? Superman, born in Kal-El to his father Jor-El and his mother Lara on the planet Krypton. Krypton as a planet was about to be destroyed from the inside out, right? It was a dying planet, right? Depending on what canon you read, it's kind of a little bit different reasonings, but Krypton is about to blow up. Krypton is about to be no more. Like no one's gonna get out alive. No one's gonna be saved, and the whole Krypton people are in mortal danger, right? As a people, they are about to become extinct. Like they are about to be no more. But Jor-El gets this idea. That to save his son from the peril that's about to happen, he builds a small ship, just big enough for a baby, and he sends the son away to escape their fate and to keep him protected, to send him off into the cosmos or whatever, which is just better than blowing up on Krypton, right? And of course, he lands in Smallville. Here on Earth in America, and is found by Mom and Pa Kent, his mother Martha, where they raise him as their own. And as he gets older, he has this sense of justice and wanting to protect people, and he can fly and shit and whatever, all this kind of stuff. So we all know that story, right? So I'm assuming that the parallels between these two stories are already forming in your mind, but I want to say them out loud, so bear with me. just go along with it, okay? I've been waiting a long time to talk about this. But Moses and Superman, if we pull the parallels together, both of their lives were in danger from before they were even born, right? Like it was a world that was set out to kill them. Like they weren't supposed to survive. Moses was supposed to be thrown in the river, and Superman was supposed to blow up on his planet, right? Kal-El, baby Kal-El, all this kind of stuff. And then both Moses and Superman's parents thought up a plan to save their child from their fate, from what was going to happen. Both Moses and Superman were, as babies, put into vessels that would carry them off away from the danger. Moses was a basket in the Nile. Superman was a ship that shot him out into outer space. Both Moses and Superman are found and raised by someone not from their own people, right? Moses was raised by, adopted by the princess of the Pharaoh, and then, of course, Superman to Mon and Pa Kent, but so not their own people and raised up in a different culture, different environment, or whatever. Both Moses and Superman grew up to have a sense of justice and wanting to protect people. Clearly, Moses belongs to the Zack Snyder, DC, whatever, EU, as his first act of justice was killing that Egyptian and burying him in the sand. But whatever, we'll go with it. But it was still that, like, hey, you're doing something wrong, like you can't do that to people, and he put an end to it. So they both have this moral righteousness or whatever, that to do the right thing, and it goes from there a bit. Superman's stories are still, of course, being written, so we don't have a finalized story. But just as Superman flies around and saves people on a daily basis, Moses, while not having X-ray vision or the ability to fly, did have a really solid connection with God, and he used that to help his people escape their slavery and ultimately lead them to the promised land. So it's still this idea of people on a whole, protecting them and looking for justice and trying to do the right thing and doing what's right and everything. And I think it's fact. I don't know if they ever actually went on to say it out loud or whatever, Siegel and Schuster, but like it's clear that the story of Moses was their reference point for the story of Superman and when they created all that and that origin story and everything. So I think it's super cool. It's super neat. There's another layer that I might get into in another show, but I feel like I'm already long enough on this one. But just it's really cool to me. So that's the connection between Moses and Superman, a connection that most people don't talk about or put together, but it's absolutely there. It's absolutely a true thing. So I can't wait to talk more about Moses stuff. He has a lot of fun things to go about. So as always, please, like, share, whatever. Thank you for listening. Have a fantastic day. I guess we're done. Cheers.